Hi, I'm Oswald Situk, and today I'll be showing you how to add a secondary domain controller to your domain. Call it a replica domain controller. So here in my Hyper-V Manager, I have my primary domain controller here, and I have this server that I want to promote to a domain controller, but not just a domain controller, a secondary or a replica or a replication domain controller for my primary domain controller. So let me show you my primary domain controller now. So this is my DC1, it's my primary domain controller, and if I come into tools and Active Directory users and computers, you can see here that I have two domain controllers already. I have a primary one and I have a secondary one. I think from my Hyper-V, you could see the second one I have here, DC2, is turned off right now. So I'm going to come back here and show you I have two already, and I'm going to add another. So we're going to have a third. And if we also went into, let's go back to Server Manager, if we went to our Active Directory sites and services, we would see the same proof that we have just two domain controllers right now. If we come to this site and our default site name, servers here we have this DC1 and DC2, the Oswald DC1 and the Oswald DC2. These are the two domain controllers that we have in this domain right now, managing the entire domain. That said, I want to just confirm and let's check for our IP address range. So we have 192.168.21 and 185. So I'm just going to bring you here and show you the networking. So let's come here and then click on IPv4, and you can see we have 192.168.21.185, and this is our subnet mask. And so we have our preferred DNS and a alternate DNS server. So we have this option. So this is the IP address of my first DC, and this is the IP address of my second DC. So I just want to see this because we're going to have to do some networking in our replication server, the new one we want to do. So before we add a domain controller to our domain, we first of all need to make sure they're on the same virtual switch and they belong to the same subnet. So that's what we're going to do now. So we know the subnet range here. It starts from this is slash um, this is slash 27. So this means that we have um, our IP address range starts from 160, that's 192.168.21.160 all the way to 191, and our usable IPs fall within that range. So we've already used a 185 and we use a 186. So let's go into our replication server and do the same thing. So I'm going to come here to here, and we're going to go to replication server DC04. So here we have our server. You could come here and check our dashboard. You would see that we do not have ADDS installed on this server. Now, if you want to know how to create a virtual machine and install a server on it, I have a link in the description where you can find out how to do that, and also how to install ADDS. We're going to do it now, but if you want to see an explicit video just for that purpose, check the link in the description. So here I have my local server and it doesn't belong to any domain, so it's just in the work group, and I need to go configure the IP address first of all. So I'm going to come here and click on this, then open up the Ethernet and then go to properties. So I don't want to use IPv6 for anything here today, so I'll just uncheck this and open up IPv4. I don't want it to obtain automatically, I want to set this myself, so I'll just come here and say okay, let's have one, let's do that again, 192.168.21, and then we have, I want to use 187, so use 187, or let's say 188, 188 here, and then I'm going to come here and give it my subnet mask 224, and then I'll come to my preferred DNS server 192.168.21, and then we have here 185, and then the next one 192.168.21, 186. Then just go ahead and do this okay and okay, and then close this now. Now, why are we doing this in the first place? Now, a domain controller is like the central repository or central management system for your domain. So every authorization request or authentication request that is going to be made in this domain will be made to the domain controller. So we have some FISMO roles that handle certain areas of management in your domain. I'm not talking about FISMO roles today. We'll get into that in detail, but just know that the authentication and the authorization that is done in throughout the entire domain is handled by your domain controllers. So when we have a replication domain server, it just means that we have a secondary point that can serve as added redundancy plan. So you don't have a single point of failure. Say you have your primary domain controller has an issue and it is turned off or unavailable for some reason. It means that every replication or authentication request that's supposed to go to that domain controller would be denied. It wouldn't be successful. So if you do not have a secondary plan, it wouldn't work. But with the replication server, you offer redundancy to your production system. That way, when that one server is down, the the request will automatically fail over. Let me use that word to the secondary or the replication server for that request. So that's what we're trying to do here. So first of all, I've connected this to the same um, subnet. So this is the subnet. Let's just ping our domain controller and see what happens here to confirm that we have connectivity. I'm going to come here. I think I have a lag, so I'll just go ahead and use PowerShell. So I'm going to just come here and ping my domain controller. So ping 192.168.21.185. So that's the IP address of the domain controller one, the primary domain controller. So I'm going to hit enter and you can see the echo is come back from there. So we're sure we can communicate with that with the same network. So that's that. And I'll go ahead to add this domain controller to that domain. But before we can do that, we need to install ADDS. If we check our dashboard, you see ADDS is not installed on this server. So ADDS, Active Directory Domain Service, is the feature or the role that gives your server the ability to become a domain controller, because it gives you all the tools and the features that you need to manage the entirety of your domain, the objects and the schema and everything that happens in your domain. So before we do that, we need to go ahead and install Active Directory Domain Service role on this server. So I'm going to come here and click on Add Roles. When I click that, you can see the Add Roles and Features wizard pops up, and we'll go through this quickly. Like I said, I have a video in the description that shows you and explains step by step of installing Active Directory Domain Services on a server. So I'm going to click on Next and Next again. Then this is the server we have in this pool. I'll click on Next, and then I'm going to click on Active Directory Domain Services. Now, these are some tools that are needed. So it said include management tools. These tools are needed for you to install Active Directory Domain Services. So I'm going to just go ahead and accept this, add these features, and click on Next, and Next again, and Next again. And now you're asking me, they're showing me like a summary of what I'm going to do, and I'm going to click here so that if there's need to restart, you should just go ahead and restart anyways. So I'll click on Install and let that process take its course. Once the installation is complete, we'll get a notification and that bar will be filled up. So now the process has been completed. You see installation succeeded on this server, and then we can go ahead and promote this right here, or we can close this. So either we do it here or we close this and go to this point here and see we have the same thing, promote this server to a domain controller. So I'll just do it from here anyways. Then I'll close this one. So here they're asking me, do you want to add this to a domain controller? Do you want to add a domain controller to an existing domain? That's what I want to do, but I'm not just going to go through the other options. Do you want to add a new domain to an existing forest? Do you want to add a new forest? So this would be like a child domain to this, and this is if you're creating an entirely new domain control, a domain and a new forest for the first time. But I have a domain already. I'm going to just come here and insert this. So I'll just type in here. This is the option I've chosen. I'll type in the oswald.com. Then I will just go ahead and click on select, and it will ask me for the credentials that authorizes this this operation, this deployment operation. So now I have a domain controller, a primary domain controller already. So I will use the username and password of that particular domain controller. So here you see it's showing the domain of this PC itself, of this server, sorry, itself. So I have to change this. I have to make sure I point it back to my domain controller. So I'll just come here and say, I'll use the NetBIOS name. So the Oswald in backslash administrator. So it changes automatically to the Oswald domain. So administrator, you see it change here. And then I can go ahead and put my password. Then hit on OK. This is the domain right here. And the reason why it's able to find the forest or make a request to that domain is because the DNS server of this current server is pointing towards my primary domain controller. So that's why that is possible. So I'll click on OK, and automatically see we're supplying the credentials to perform this operation. So I am doing this with the DC1. So I can go ahead and click on next. So here I will leave everything else as is. And right now for the domain controller options, we have just one site. And now I'm going to come here and just add a password for my directory services restore mode. So I'll just add a password there. And then I'll click on next, next again. So if we allow this to replicate from any domain controller, it could just make the choice on its own. But we have two already. We could choose to replicate from either of them, or we can be very specific and say, okay, we want to replicate from the primary domain controller itself. And both of them are actually global, have a global catalog. So basically, you can search or query for anything in the entire domain forest, like anything, even the child domain. So you have access to all of that. But I just want to do it from the primary domain controller. So just do this and click on next, and this is the database folder, just showing the location of the database, the logs, and the sysvol file. So go ahead and click on next, and you have to review your options and see if everything is as you want it. That's fine. I'll click on next again. Then we let this validity check go through, prerequisite check. Okay, it's passed. So all prerequisites checks are passed successfully. So click on installation to begin installation. So I'm good to go. There's no red, so I'm fine. Just go ahead and click on install. This will take some time. I'm going to actually time this so I let you know how long it took for this to happen. Okay, so I'm about to be signed out right now. I'll just close. It took about 2 minutes 30 seconds. I'll just close this and the restarting begins. So the restart is complete. So now we have to sign into our domain, the Oswald. So I'm going to use my username, administrator, and my password. Sign in. So signing in now, this PC is no more just a regular server, it's now a domain controller. And it has been added to my domain. So if I go on to my I think I was wrong with the password, check my domains in my domain controllers in my primary DC1, you should see it as one of those domain controllers there. Administrator, so that wasn't correct. Happens all the time. So I'll go on and click on enter this time around. Okay, beautiful. So while that is happening, this is DC1 right here. I'm going to just going to refresh this. So just refresh this now. You can see it's added this as a domain controller. So now we have another domain controller added to this domain. Added to this domain. That's it. If I come back here to sites, if I were to refresh this, come back here, check the servers we have. We have a third now. So we have 3 domain controllers here. We can also create a user here quickly and then see it replicate to the other side. So now this user is created after we joined it to the domain. So I'm just going to try something. Maybe come to our help desk administrators and just come click create a new user here. Just say test user and log on test user. Next. I'll create this user. So we have a user there, test user right here. So we'll confirm that on our domain controller once it comes up. Here we are in the server manager and we can see that we now have ADDS role attached to the server. When we come to local server here, you would see that, let's give it some time to load, theoswald.com. So this guy belongs to the domain already. We've confirmed it from our primary domain controller, and we can come here to just check few things, Active Directory users and computers, just like we have in our primary domain controller, which you see just the same thing here. So this is our domain. You can click this down, just drop down here and come to domain controllers. You can see the list is right here. And if we go to our help desk, so you see that test user we created is right here. So whatever is happening in one domain controller is replicated to the other. Now, in the scenario where it hasn't replicated on time and you know you should have, you could go to sites and services and try to make the replication happen. So here we will just expand site, and then we have just one site right now. So this is called default site first name. So just expand this and we see the servers here, expand the servers. Here you see our three domain controllers. This NH Miller, and we have Oswald DC1, the Oswald DC2. So this are the domain controllers in the same site. So if I want to check replication topology, you can see already that it's showing you that replication is happening from DC1 and DC2 to this domain controller. But if you want to check replication topology, you just come to all task and check replication topology. This might take some time. Like now we have it in the same site, but in a real life scenario where it has to do with physical locations, like being separate physical locations, it might take some time. So it will happen eventually. So you see this, we have here the Active Directory domain service on domain controller. It also has checked the topology. You will need to refresh the container to see if new or to see any new or deleted connection. So just come here and click here and just right click here and replicate now. So I'm replicating from DC2. So that replication has happened. It's a bit quicker because this is just a lab scenario. So you come here and replicate now. And that has happened as well. You could do that on these other domain controllers and just make the replication happen both ways. So that's just how this is. And from here, we can just go to test this replication and see how it works. We tested with a user earlier, but let's try something else. Let's say we're creating a group policy object. So let's come to group policy management. And come here. So here we have the forest, the oswald.com. I'll expand this and then expand our domains. And this is the oswald.com domain. Expand this again. I'm just going to make this a little wider. Then we'll come to group policy objects. So just right click here and create a new one and just call it test policy. So I expect that this will replicate to the other domain controller. So I'm going to click on this and create one. So we have test policy. So this is the recent domain controller we added. I'm going to go to our DC1 and confirm this. So this is our DC1. So I'll just come to group policy and check for that GPO. So we'll come here and expand it. And when we come here to domains and then the oswald.com group, it's right here. So if we come here also and say we're going to create a new one and say maybe test policy X, Let's create a new one from here and just get it sorted. So that's done. Let's go back to our new domain controller. So if we refresh this, we should find that update. So you see test policy X has been updated here. So the reason why we have a secondary domain controller is to ensure that we have fault tolerance, like I explained earlier, and also for load balancing in terms of traffic that comes for authentication and authorization purposes. It will not overwhelm one server. It will be spread across the servers that are available. So that way you have a good system that ensures high availability also. So thank you for sticking around, and I hope you learned something from this video. And like always, I would say like, subscribe, hit the bell button, leave a nice comment for me. If it's not nice, I will also take it. See you in the next video.